He was betrayed by his friend and left to die, but then he ate monsters and became the strongest in the world. Hello and welcome back to AniCap Explained. Today we'll recap the anime Arifureta from commonplace to world's strongest, so let's begin. The tale begins with Nagumo Hajime falling into the abyss of the Orcus labyrinth, home to monsters stronger than he had ever seen. Facing the gruesome situation, he tries to hide. He is seen by a bear-like beast that severs his arm. He escapes by burying himself in a hole where ambrosia, which is a healing liquid, allows him to survive. Flashback to a few days back. It is revealed that Hajime and his classmates were suddenly teleported into another world. There they were welcomed as heroes and were granted skills. However, everyone received some kind of powerful skill except Hajime. His classmates made fun of him, degrading his lack of ability. And one day, while in the dungeon, someone out of his party pushed him into the abyss. Back in the present, Hajime uses traps to hunt wolves. After eating one, the beast's DNA starts to merge with his DNA, gaining unparalleled power. He uses his powers to create his weapon Donner, a gun which he hunts to increase his passion further. The king is informed about Hajime's death, and unwilling to admit to a hero's death, he forbids anyone to mention the incident. We learn that there is a centuries-old war between humans and demons. Thus they summon the heroes to overcome their foes. Meanwhile, Kaori, the girl Hajime was friends with, cries after learning he is no longer alive. Hajime continues to hunt high-level beasts to power up. He finally reaches a giant stone door and defeats its guardians, retrieving keys from their corpses. Behind the doors, Hajime finds a young girl who her uncle betrayed. He decides to free her, giving her a new name, Yu for the moon, as her golden hair reminds him of moonlight. Further in their journey, a giant scorpion monster attacks them, but Yu, a vampire, sucks on Hajime blood, reviving her strength and defeating the monster. While eating the beast, Yu learns that all other vampires had been exterminated, making her the last one. Hajime also uses this chance to create a new weapon from the beast's shell called Schlagen. Meanwhile, in the Pope's palace, the heroes get orders to sweep the lower dungeons to increase their powers. Back to Hajime and Yu, who discover a floor where a plant-like monster controls all monsters. The monster manages to get a hold of Yu. However, Hajime's skill, which makes him immune to the infection, allows him to kill the beast. Several days later, they reach the bottom floor and prepare to face the final boss monster. Holding each other's hands, they go and confront the final boss, which appears to be a giant hydra-like monster with 6 heads, each capable of different magic. One of those heads also possesses the ability to heal others. As they fight, Yu is distracted by its hypnosis ability. This leads to the possibility of her being eaten by it. However, Hajime rescues her and dispels her trance with a kiss. Together they finally succeed in killing the beast. As the final door opens, Hajime passes out from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Aiko Hanayama, Hajime's teacher, who is also summoned as a hero, argues with the Pope, insisting they re-enter the labyrinth. The Pope agrees only to send students that volunteer as long as Aiko continues using her fertility magic to support the kingdom's struggling agriculture. After their fierce win against the 6-headed demon, Hajime wakes up. He learns that Yu dragged him into the mansion after the door unlocked. He explores the estate and finds a magic circle that reveals an image of Oscar Orcus, who built the labyrinth. Congratulating them on defeating the labyrinth, Oscar grants Hajime his power and memories before disappearing. Hajime takes advantage of Oscar's treasure library and workshop to learn as much as possible before conquering all the labyrinths to learn their ancient magic and become the strongest. On the other hand, the heroes make their way to level 65 and come in direct contact with the same monster that caused them to retreat. However, this time it is different as they are stronger and more confident. Thus they manage to beat it. As the duo makes their way to the top, Shay Halia greets them, a rabbit girl of the Halia clan who is asking for help. However, Hajime and Yu attempt to ignore her as they don't want to interfere. Eventually, Hajime agrees to listen after she keeps on nagging, and she explains that monsters are threatening her tribe. She adds that using her magical ability to predict possible futures, she foresaw Hajime would save them. Hajime agrees to aid her in exchange for her to guide them to the Great Tree. On their way to the clan's location, the trio kills off the beast threatening Shay's line. Hajime also decides to train the family, transforming their timid nature. As per the agreement, Shay guides them to the Great Tree. However, upon reaching their destination, they learn that this labyrinth will only open after he has defeated others first. Hajime and Yu then head out to conquer the other dungeons, and Shay decides to tag along with them, having fallen in love with him. Before we continue, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Done? Well then let's continue. They travel to Reisen Gorge, containing the entrance to another labyrinth. Upon entering, Miledi Reisen, who built this labyrinth, greets them. However, this ordeal is too much for Shay, causing her to wet herself. After Hajime and the girls make it to the bottom, they face Miledi herself operating a giant robot. As they fight, they manage to crack her crystal heart. After Miledi suffers the loss, she informs Hajime that he will one day be a god killer. Upon entering the treasure room, they find Miledi's soul inside a golem. She gives Hajime her ring and her ancient gravity magic. She then kicks them out using a whirlpool and causing Shay to drown. Hajime rescues her, but she uses this chance to steal a kiss. As they return after a tiresome day, Shay insists Hajime take her virginity. Embarrassed, Hajime punishes Shay yet again. Ilwer-chan requests for Hajime, head of the Furin Adventurers Guild, to find missing adventurers, including a noble's son. However, Hajime is uninterested until Ilwer assists him in the future if they get into trouble. Consequently, they agree and set out to find the adventures. However, he runs into Aiko, his teacher, and his former classmates. Aiko cries out of joy at Hajime's survival but gets the cold shoulder. An arrogant knight angered by Hajime's attitude mocks and insults Shay, prompting Hajime to injure him severely. Later that night, Hajime visits Aiko alone to tell her the truth about the war against the demons. Before leaving, he also tells her in no uncertain terms that one of his classmates tried to murder him. The following day, Aiko and the students stubbornly insist on helping them search the mountains for the adventurers, as Aiko wants to discuss the findings Hajime had uncovered. Once they reach the forest, Hajime uses drones to search for the adventurers. Sadly, they find Will, the noble's son, who is the sole survivor. They decide to retrieve Will, who reveals that a massive army of beasts led by a black dragon attack them. As they return, the black dragon reappears. Hajime efficiently manages to knock it down from the sky. He then tries to pierce its armor. However, the dragon almost escapes until Shay knocks it out. Hajime then decides to leave the armor and shove a rod up the dragon's butt. We learn that the dragon is a female dragonborn, capable of taking a human form. She begs him to take out the rod, claiming that someone is controlling her, and offers to help defeat the man. Hajime removes the rod after Yu convinces him to spare her. The dragon then transforms into a young girl named Tio, a shameless masochist who enjoys the punishment. She also adds that the one controlling her has an army of 60,000 and that he is planning on attacking soon. Tio begs to join and help him in any way possible, be it her powers or her body. Hajime, however, ignores her and rushes to Aiko, telling her about the vast army approaching. Aiko also convinces him to fight. Before the battle starts, Hajime gives a speech to motivate everyone and decides to dedicate their victory to Aiko, the goddess of plenty, embarrassing her. The ferocious fighting ensues, and the trio plus Tio start destroying the army. As the opponents' numbers begin to diminish, they try to locate this attack's mastermind, revealed to be Shimizu, a former classmate of Hajime. He drags him to Aiko, who scolds him. Shimizu reveals that he contracted with the demons for greater power before stabbing Aiko with a poisonous needle. However, he is shot from behind by a sniper by Hajime. He also heals Aiko before mercilessly killing Shimizu as he begs for mercy and forgiveness. A slavery gang captures a rare mermaid child named Miu and decides to sell her. Meanwhile, following the battle, the band returns Will to his father and collects the fee. Choosing they need a break, they explore the city as tourists, where Hajime senses Miu being kidnapped and saves her. Not wanting to be tied down, he hands Miu to the city guards. However, she immediately gets kidnapped again. Red with rage, he pursues the criminals and storms their hideout and killing the boss. Despite his reservations, Hajime takes to parenting Miu quite well. They return to the city where the heroes summon them. There he meets a panicked Endu, his classmate, who informs him about the situation with the class. He is overwhelmed by Catlia's summoned monsters and begs him to help. Meanwhile, the rest of the course inside the labyrinth meets a demon girl who can control monsters. She relentlessly attacks them but is stopped when none other than Hajime comes to rescue the heroes. Everyone is stoked about his arrival except for Hayama. She seems to be the one who pushed Hajime into the pit. Hajime sees through Catlia's magic and kills all her monsters. He successfully rescues them and kills the demon girl as well. Suddenly, Shirasaki, the only person Hajime was friends with, appears and is overjoyed. She asks him to return to their party, promising to keep him safe. Upon his refusal, she stubbornly tags along with him on his journey. Yu approves of her joining, and they make their way to other labyrinths. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, then please consider liking and subscribing to AniCap Explained. See you at the next one.